So the OKC Thunder, they've been probably one of the more surprising teams as of late. I mean, looking at their recent games overall, they just lost to the Atlanta Hawks, but won against Denver, lost against Sacramento, but won 5 games against Indiana, Brooklyn, Chicago, and Philly. I mean, Brooklyn and Philly both contenders, Indiana being a pretty competent team. Same thing with Chicago and even Denver. I mean, these are pretty great wins over some pretty tough teams. And today we're going to talk about the OKC Thunder because they've been one of the more surprising teams, like I said, but they also have some pretty interesting players on the team like Shea, Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams. I mean, they've all been pretty great in their own rights, and they still have a guy like a Chet Holmgren who hasn't even played the season yet. So we'll get into it right now. So looking at the OKC Thunder overall in the standings in the West, they are 23 and 25. They are the 11th seed. They are outside of the play-in tournament, so they honestly could make it. They looking at the standings right now, I mean, Utah is ahead of them by 2 games, and Golden State 24, Minnesota 25, Phoenix 25. So as long as OKC keeps winning and Utah keeps losing, I mean, they could definitely be a play-in spot and can be contending for a playoff spot in the future. So yeah, we'll look at some of the pieces on the roster right now, starting with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He's been their best player and most likely an all-star. I mean, he's been playing at an MVP level, someone that's going to be getting buckets and a pretty great perimeter defender too. So looking at his stats, 31 points per game, around 5 rebounds and around 5.5 assists with a steal and 2 blocks, or 1 block and 2 steals on 51 from the field and 36 from 3. He's been going off. I mean, we all know what Shea can do. And he's only 24 years old too, so he fits in with the time frame pretty easily. With the OKC Thunder, I mean, they've already had this guy for a couple seasons now, and you know, they really do needed a guy like a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander on the team that can just lead the team and be the guy that can facilitate the offense, when that can run the offense and put the ball in the hoop. So, you know, they got pretty lucky that Shea fell to them, you know, in that Paul George trade. But, I mean, he's the future for this team. I mean, hopefully he is. Hopefully the rumors about him wanting out of OKC is false. I'm pretty sure they're false, so you guys can let me know if they are false. But, I mean, Shea on this team moving forward, being the cornerstone of this franchise, is definitely something I want to see. So, looking at the other 2 guys I want to talk about here, Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams. So, Giddey, he's been great. I mean, this season alone, he's definitely been a lot better recently. I remember at the start of the season, he was actually pretty horrible to start out, but he started ramping it up a lot more in like a month or 2, I think, like a month ago, I want to say. So yeah, so Giddey, he's averaging 16 points, 8 rebounds, and around 6 assists. Pretty good stats for a sophomore, on around 48 from the field and 33 from 3. You know, 3-ball can use some work, but I mean, 48 from the field as a guard is actually pretty good. I don't know. I mean, Giddey, he's going to be a guy that's going to pass the ball and, you know, make some buckets. And in the last 10 games, he's been actually averaging 19 points and 8 rebounds with 7 assists on 52 from the field. But like I said, I mean, the 3-ball definitely needs to, he needs some work on the 3-ball. I mean, only 29% from the 3 in the last 10 games. Could definitely use some work. But he is 20 years old, so he has a pretty high ceiling. Someone that has a lot of potential. So, I mean, you got to cut him some slack. He is 6'8", so you can either run him at the 1 or the 2. I'm not too sure who they run at the 1. I'm pretty sure it's Shea and then Josh Giddey at the 2. Or maybe vice versa and kind of have both of them run someplace. But, I mean, regardless, both these guys running the offense can definitely help him in the long run. Just the thing is, Josh Giddey just needs a lot more work on his 3-ball. I mean, it's pretty low for his shot tendency. So finally, we want to talk about Jalen Williams. So the rookie this year, 12th pick overall, 12 points per game, 4 rebounds, and around 3 assists. He's actually been really surprising, and I think he was like top 3 in the Rookie of the Year race at one point this season. So yeah, over the season, he's shooting around 51% from the field and around 29 from 3. So like I said, the 3-ball for both these guys aren't really coming along too well. But I mean, I got to give them some slack. They are still pretty young. I mean, he's only 21 years old. So yeah, Jalen Williams, I was watching some OKC games. He actually has a lot of potential. And looking at him right now, man, he kind of reminds me like a KPJ, man. I mean, not saying that their play styles are similar, not saying that they look similar, but I don't know, Jalen Williams, he's a guy that can just put the ball in the hoop, and he can just do a lot of everything. I mean, he can pass the ball, he can at least rebound the ball. He is around 6'6", 195 pounds, so he definitely could play the small forward position or the shooting guard position, whatever you want him to do. But yeah, he kind of reminds me like a KPJ, which is pretty good. So I don't know, the OKC, they're, as of late, overachieving. I mean, this team, a lot of people didn't have this team at least touching the play-in this season alone, let alone the playoffs. So I think it's great to see that a team like this is finally able to thrive, and with a leader like Gilgeous-Alexander on the team, it's a lot easier. So yeah, not only do they have like these three guys on the team, I mean, they also have guys like Uzma and Jang. I think that's how you say his name. Against Dor. I mean, I know Dor pretty well from the Rockets series against the OKC Thunder back in the bubble. There's Baisley, who has some potential. Isaiah Joe, who's been actually a really underrated guy for this team, and he was picked up from the Sixers, I want to say. So yeah, I mean, he's been pretty underrated. Trey Mann also had some potential going to the draft. I mean, as a Rockets fan, we worked him out, but then where we weren't going to be able to draft him, I think. So, yeah, I mean, Trey Mann had a lot of potential. Pokuševski has a lot of potential, too. I mean, there's a lot of guys on this team that have a lot of potential to become pretty good players in the NBA. I mean, even guys like the other Jalen Williams on the team, Aaron Wiggins, Lindy Waters, too. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of potential, high potential guys on this team. Obviously, we haven't even talked about Chet yet, who, once he comes next season, he's going to be a monster. I mean, he's definitely going to be a monster, and whenever he comes back, the lineup of Shea, Dort, Josh Giddey, I don't even know who's going to be playing the four, maybe Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and then Chet Holmgren. I mean, that lineup would be deadly. Off the bench, Jalen Williams as a sixth man. I mean, this team can definitely be a playing team, or maybe even a playoff team next season whenever they have Chet. So, and they should be in the works for another pick. I mean, they are one of the worst teams in the league again, I want to say. So, looking at the standings overall, so they have a record of 23-25. I mean, they're one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, looking at, yeah, they could be in store for like a top 10 pick, I want to say. So, I mean, getting a guy like a Nick Smith Jr., Anthony Black, I mean, one of those guys, Sor Thompson, Amen Thompson, one of those guys could be a pretty enticing addition for this team, and adding some more young depth on this team. I mean, OKC, they like to stockpile picks. They could trade one of these pretty good players for some more first-round picks, but, I mean, building around these guys, Shea, Giddey, and Jalen Williams, I mean, this should be your core right here that you should be building around, and then adding in Chet Holmgren, too, whenever he comes back. So, yeah, I mean, you guys can let me know what you guys think about the OKC Thunder. I mean, they've been overachieving recently. They are on the cusp of the play-in tournament, and if the playoffs started today, they could be in the play-in. So we'll see what happens. In terms of playoff hopes, we'll see what happens. A lot of stuff can happen. I mean, the Utah Jazz haven't been looking too great as of late. I mean, Lauri Markkanen has been great, but I mean, OKC can definitely overtake them, be in the play-in, and honestly make the playoffs if they do win their games, but we'll see what happens. So, I mean, one more guy I actually want to talk about is Isaiah Joe, because this guy's been pretty amazing for this team. Pretty quickly here, so 8 points and 2 rebounds with 1 assist on around 46 from the field and 44 from 3. He's been a sniper from 3, and I don't know, ever since coming from the Philadelphia 76ers, he's definitely been one of the more surprising players on this team, and he's a good three-point shooter. I mean, I'm not too sure if he's a good defensive guy. From what I've seen that one game, I can't remember what the game it was. It might have been against the Kings. I can't remember, but he was playing some pretty great defense and was shooting the ball pretty well. So, I mean, he could be a good 3-and-D player for this team. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, this team has a lot of potential. Pretty deep whenever all these guys develop. And come next season, this team could definitely be one of the more deadlier teams in the league. Whenever they have Chet Holmgren back, whenever these guys develop, they're going to be one of the more scariest teams in the league. So, that's the end. My name is JTC.